welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I will just introduce them in a little more detail. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with the names and the companies, but just to bring everyone up to date, Artur Loginov, is that correct, Artur?
Yeah.
Am I saying it well?
Perfect.
Dromalia, is that correct?
Super.
Super, thank you. Artur joined Dromalia in 2009 as a sales agent. Since 2015, he's been the head of the sales department. Later, he successfully graduated as an executive MBA and at the ESIC Business and Marketing School, ranked among the top business schools in the world. Arthur is also a proud recipient of awards from the European Property Awards for his work in Spain. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Artur Loginov. Lyra is CEO of Property Gallery Developers and Constructors Limited, and if I'm right in saying, has already come to the stage twice today to, well, you never know, to pick up awards. Lyra is the founder, shareholder, and CEO and managing director. Wide experience in setting up company strategies and business activities according to the priorities of the business. A member of the board of directors of PL Property Gallery Fund, Cyprus Real Estate Investment Fund, which seeks to achieve superior returns and maximum capital appreciation from real estate investments. Ladies and gentlemen, Lyra. Next, we have Benjamin Buell with a career spanning, can I say, over 25 years. Am I allowed? You and me both, Benjamin. You and me both. A career spanning over 25 years, Benjamin has made a significant impact in the field of real estate, particularly in large-scale projects. In 1996, Benjamin founded his company Open Frontiers, marking the beginning of a remarkable journey in the real estate industry, specializing in comprehensive services from plot purchase to project completion. Benjamin has established a sterling reputation for his expertise and unwavering commitment to client satisfaction, and, like Artur, has also received awards from the European Property Awards for his work in real estate agencies. So, Benjamin, welcome and thank you. And last but by no means least, we have Max Teipold, Chief Operating Officer for SO Development. And as the Chief Operating Officer, Max is responsible for overseeing the day-to-day administration of this boutique family development company. His key areas of focus include finance, sales, marketing, and procurement. And additionally, Max plays a key role in supervising the construction of the project Studentska, which I believe we mentioned earlier as well, did we not? Coming up to the stage to receive a prize. The first ever premium apartment development in Ostrava in the Czech Republic. Ladies and gentlemen, Max. So we're going to talk about real estate, we're going to talk about development and try and talk about people's experience in their home country and with their clients of some of the trials and tribulations that everybody in the business is up against on a daily basis, and some of the joys as well. So starting with whoever would like to begin, let's talk about interest rates. We've had another rise to a record level here in the UK in interest rates just last week. And according to the International Monetary Fund, world inflation reached 8.8% last year, although some rates here in Europe have been a little bit lower than that. So how is this affecting what you do, and what are your fears, hopes, aspirations for the future of inflation and interest rates? Is this impacting Lyra? How is it impacting your business?
Well, first of all, good evening, everyone, and thanks for the great event. How it affects directly, it affects directly any developer, because since you're in the developing business, I'm afraid the two key killers of the business are the inflation and the delays in the production, which are again connected between them. So we as developers, unfortunately, we're very much linked to any building material costs, and they are going high to the sky, and it affects the prices. And if we go back to the fears of any developer and all the colleagues in the real estate business, on the one side, we're trying to keep the prices as low as possible, and inflation doesn't give you this, let's say, safety pillow, because we're selling the property mainly off plan and during construction with very fixed price, and you cannot predict any highs and rises of the inflation, and that leads you to decrease immensely the margin of the developer. So you have to secure the client, and you have to prepay developing materials which you're not sure if they will be placed or not, just to avoid certain kind of damages. So the inflation is a terrible thing, and we really hope, if we're speaking about fears and hopes, that it will somehow stabilize the system, at least in European Union, because we are very fragile on that.
Max, I presume this is affecting you in exactly the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you take a look at Czech Republic, the interest rate 7.2%, the inflation 12.5%. So obviously that's impacting us and our clients as well. How we're mitigating these effects is by offsetting the commodity escalations and everything that's affecting the construction. Luckily, we've actually been able to secure some of the contracts before the escalations happen. So, for instance, the contract for steel and concrete, we've been able to secure before the escalation actually happened. But what we are suffering from, or what we will suffer, because our construction is now in, let's say, 50% or halfway through, we will suffer the after effect of all the escalations, which is now affecting not only the first production sites, but now the retailers as well. And since we're getting to the final stage of the construction, where we're buying all the end products, then it would affect us as well, obviously.
Thank you. Benjamin, obviously you've seen these ebbs and flows come and go during your 25 years. What do you make of what's happening at the moment?
Well, I think we saw it in '96 as well. Then 2008, 2009 was a real financial crisis. I think the inflation, everybody knows it's not good. I hope that the government will bring it down to 3.5% next year. Let's hope. I have to say, we work in a very niche market. So for us, it's very important to get the prices of construction lower, but our prices of sales are much higher as well. And people, our clients, accept to pay more.
Yeah. And what about you, as far as this goes? How is it going where you are? How is it affecting? How are these high interest rates affecting your clients?
Well, on a general note, our hometown market is quite stable, and I think we'll get into that in a moment, and I'll explain a little bit about that. The interest rates from a personal side, and from talking to many of our clients, investors, and bank managers who are way more intelligent people than myself, I think it's reasonable to assume that most likely they will remain the same this year, and possibly even decline a little bit. As well, what you mentioned about the world inflation from 2022, we already see the forecast for this year being lower than last year, and there's a further forecast for 24 that maybe it will reach around 4.5%, something like that. And something that I'm excited to discuss with the colleagues is how that as well can then affect the potentially another wave of purchases. Which can have a super great effect, especially in a market like our hometown where the inventory is still low. So therefore, I hope that it will be like that.
An optimist, Artur.
Yes.
Good to hear. Now, I don't really want to get into the politics of the situation, but geopolitically, obviously, there are tensions in Europe. And you are working, all of you, in fact, everyone in the room is working in Europe. So how is that impacting the way that you do business? And things like we were talking about supply chains, energy prices, this all has a knock-on, doesn't it?
In terms of Cyprus, there are pros and cons of the situation, because On the one hand, political situation brought a lot of immigrants, let's call them, in Cyprus, but it's mainly, I can not call them immigrants, it's relocation. It's a lot of companies from CIS regions are coming and relocating businesses, relocating a lot of people. In that terms, well, the country has a lot of advantages in terms of commercial areas, residential areas, and we're suffering from huge shortage of properties. So basically the rents, they went nearly double or triple. On one hand, it's good, but from the other hand, we don't want the market to take that big advantage because we're considering that it should be very sustainable growth, but not bubble. Everybody, of course, I don't think there is a person in Europe which is not hoping for the situation, any political situation to be solved, because we are all used being in the market for so many years. We are all used to stable situation, and we really were searching for that stability back. And we're trying to do everything from our side to show for all the relocation companies that we are very stable as Europe. Yes, and during all the crises, a lot of things were same, but a lot of things were not the same. So in that terms, the good thing is that people understanding inflation, they want to invest more, and they're searching for very solid financial models, whether in properties or the investments, or it's commercial, residential, long-term, short-term, hotels, any kind of investments, and they consider them better than any bank interests, which I find really very important for the market and the niches we're working. Well, the chain, supply and everything, okay, we're getting used to the fact that now, instead of few months delivery, we're getting to 6 or 8 months of delivery of the products, which affects your products also. But again, all people, I think they're searching for the new niches, they're searching for the new technologies, and they're searching for the new solutions, which makes the industry to grow faster. I consider that all my colleagues in this fields in any European countries, they're looking for easier solutions. They're going back to local markets. They stop importing so many unnecessary things, and they're supporting the local markets also, which I really find great, because if the developing industry is working, they're helping all the industries of any smaller or bigger country to work.
On the one hand, a problem can be an advantage.
Yes, of course. It's I think any problem has a solution. It's just commonly understanding and trying to find the solution. And I do believe, and I really respect any industry which helps its own local economy and so far, so European economy as well.
Lyra, thank you very much. Artur and Benjamin, what about the profile of your clients? Is that changing? You're both operating in a very international clientele base, aren't you?
I think it's changing seriously. Before we had the UK market, Irish market, seriously. UK market with Brexit went down.
Yeah, we can only come for 90 days and then we have to go again.
Yeah, but I have to admit, with the golden visa that Spain gives, we get a lot of rather wealthy clients. They are looking for security, for kind of good life. The war in Ukraine, it helps nobody. I know it's not good, but I have to admit, a lot of wealthy people from Poland, Hungary, all those countries, Germany, Scandinavia, they come to the south of Spain. I think you can...
Yeah, very similar. I mean, speaking from Marbella, the high-end real estate that we work in, our clientele is extremely international. Extremely. It's the whole of Europe. We also have Middle East, and in the last years we are seeing more and more also clients and investors from the United States.
And that's new. That's a new.
It always existed, but on a very...
rather new. Yeah. For us, it's rather new. I have to admit, we have now funds coming from Slovakia who want to invest into Soto Grande, who want to do developments. Also, still UK funds who come back to Spain. So, and that's new. That's new.
And do you predict that still changing further, Artur? Is there more change to come, do you think, in the profile of the clients?
I guess it depends on each location. I can only speak for Marbella, and we have the peculiarity of Marbella becoming in the last few years much more attractive to the European tourists on a general note, and the town is growing. It's only a town of 150,000 people, so it's relatively different maybe statistics, and it's growing significantly with lots of new amenities, restaurants, brands, and really building up a brand for the Marbella, and that attracts everyone. And we are seeing this in our hometown, and Marbella has always been an extremely international location.
Max, I want to talk about, just changing the subject a little, I want to talk about water. We've selected, because of our relationship with Laufan, water is the theme for today and this evening. Literally, water runs through everything that we do. What's the approach as far as your firm is concerned to water? Because here in the UK, we're seeing extremes of weather more and more, less rainfall ultimately, and presumably that's the same for you. Are you considering water and sustainability in everything that you're doing now?
So, of course, water supplies globally is a constraint for us, but maybe more on a private level. But we're always trying to narrow down what can we do and actually convert it into an actual items related to our project. So first of all, we are supplying the house with a grey water management. We also changed the heating system. Just to give you a little bit of background, we bought the project 3 years ago or 2 years ago from a different investor. At the time, the project was around 11 years old. So we had to do major rethinking of the whole house, of the whole building, which came along with changing the heating system. We changed from a central provided heating system from the residential area, to an independent heat pump system, which contains of 22 drills. So we are completely independent, and that also came along with changing the whole way how we operate with water. So we have an on-demand heating system, so we don't have any reservoirs of hot water waiting for anyone to use, but we're heating the water on demand at the moment when the person needs. So we're trying to be energy efficient. Of course, that doesn't really decrease dramatically the consumption of the water, but at least it decreases the energy consumption, which is required to keep the water up to a certain temperature. Besides the fact that it also positively affects the bacterial that doesn't really occur in the system anymore.
It's interesting, isn't it, Benjamin, Arthur, developers like Max and Lyra are thinking of all these wonderful schemes, ways to conserve water, ways to reuse, efficiencies. Are your clients yet asking for these things, or is it
I think it's coming.
Come?
It's really coming. It's in the needs. Okay, we have the luck that our clients are happy to pay a little bit more to have all that service, but the houses that we build are 75% self-sufficient. We try to use Hydraloop to get the grey water back into the system.
Presumably where you are, it is very dry generally, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, we cannot, as a small developer, we cannot solve out the problem of the water. But I think with the desalination plants, they could solve it out. Spain gets more and more in troubles with water, that's for sure. But I think there are solutions to do that.
Arthur, do the residents of your 250,000 residents in Marbella, do they worry about water? Is it a concern to them?
150.
150, I beg your pardon.
Well, not really, to my knowledge, but I think that in our profession, a lot has to do with also teaching the client. Yeah. So sometimes clients, they don't know about this, or they don't give it so much importance, and then maybe the developers are bringing up these new concepts onto the table of what should be done, how water should be treated, and so on. And then it's our job as real estate professionals to kind of educate the client around this idea and make it more attractive in their eyes, and therefore suddenly then it becomes a trend, and then everyone wants this new system.
And I think it's about those conversations around the dinner party table as well. You know, in the UK, as I'm sure has been the case in lots of parts of Europe, we've had much higher energy prices of late than we had previously. So now at the dinner party, people are saying, oh, I've got solar panels and it's saving me and I can putting money into the grid. And, you know, and this has become a topic of conversation, which is really interesting. Lyra, in your business, presumably sustainability, this kind of conservation of resources, that's key as well.
Yeah, you know, being a South Gate of Europe, it's a very, very responsible task, because we in Cyprus, we know about water, saving water for the last 50, 60 years.
I did say sunny Cyprus earlier on.
Yes,
and
yes. So,
yes.
yeah, we do have certain climate limitations, so we know how to save the water. We remember that old years where we had to save water in the tanks, and we're still building. I think that the way we build in Cyprus, we're very proud, because from the very beginning, I agree with Arthur that we are teaching the client who lands to Cyprus from different countries to the contexts that what is very important for us and for our next generations. So we do that, I mean, not we as a company only, I mean, we do it as a country for the last 50 years. We carefully collect all the waters in the dams, we carefully collect all the waters in the houses. We start to design houses according to the water needs. So yes, today I heard a lot of things about grey waters. We implemented it for many years. We have solar panels for the last 60 years. For us, it was always obligatory and mandatory. So yes, we are proud that we're teaching our children from very early years to preserve it, because except of being Southgate, we're a very small island. So we really consider it's very important to try to design the project, and we're starting from sustainable design. I mean, from green energy, from water saving. I think the alpha and omega in our profession and in our field.
What about that next step, whereby you're then thinking about, well, the materials that we're using, or do we need to demolish this building, or can we rebuild? Can we renovate rather than reconstruct?
I would like to share my personal experience, because currently we are renovating, which is not core business of ours, but we were engaged in 3 hotels which are over 100 years old. And being a developer of over 20 years, it became a very difficult challenge for us. I do believe that it's a crime to demolish old buildings, especially if they are listed or historical buildings, and we're changing the use of it. We're buying historical buildings, we're buying the historical hotels, and we're transforming them for something unbelievably new, and it saves a lot of building materials. It's very sustainable, and we save the history for the next generations, because if you're buying the hotel of 100 years, you cannot not to save the name, the photos, the design, the logo, and everything. And really, for me, I can say it's not a business, because it's very hard and very expensive hobby, I would say so, but it's we're very proud that we have this experience, and we're continuing. Yes, of course, nothing should be demolished, everything should be renovated for the future generations.
I mean, Max, obviously Czech Republic is full of heritage buildings and historic properties, and would you try and renovate rather than rebuild from the beginning?
So we hope that nobody will torn down our building. We hope that we will make it in a way that it lasts for at least 100 years. But it depends on the occasion. So the city that we're building, the building in Ostrava, is the third largest city in Czech Republic. Most likely everyone knows Prague and the heritage buildings there. But this city is a little bit different. It's a post-industrial city full of formal mines and iron factories. So it's a little bit different. I would say it always depends on the situation. So we have another project of a family residential building that we originally wanted to reconstruct, exactly because of the fact that there was a personal feeling or personal bound with the building, and we didn't want to just tore it down and build a new one. But then we actually realized it would never hit the targets of the self-efficiency of the building if we keep it and just reconstruct it. So we tore it down, and now it's a almost self-sufficient, sustainable house that we built from the ground up. So I would say in these cases, makes total sense. In the cases of as sort of a heritage and keeping the heritage where it is, I would always be for just reconstruction rather than tearing down.
But it's a balance, isn't it? It's a balance. Before we take some questions from the floor, I just want to ask about what the new and exciting elements are in your various professions. So within real estate, any new technologies that you're excited about? Any new, is the AI coming into real estate agency at all? We talked about AI earlier on.
I think everybody's using it, I think.
So what's new within your business and the way that you do business, or is nothing changing at the moment?
No, in the real estate, okay, I'm from the older generation, but the newer generation, they are using, of course, AI. They are using drones, they are using the videos that go into the houses, everything. In the development side, architects have a much more choice to create something unbelievable with AI. So that helps us as well to create something more exclusive, something more special, but always self-efficient housing. So that's for us a big target because it will be future.
I suppose in the future, it's the day that the AI turns up to buy a house. That's when we'll know.
It's like an electric car. People want an electric house. Self-sufficient.
So electric cars, does everybody now need a charging point? Have we reached that stage? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Artur, what about you? What are you excited about?
I definitely think that artificial intelligence is something that you want to play around in the office and try to get used to the idea. On the technology side, we also see like an increase of all the data analysis system and CRM systems that are making all of this together with the AI can enhance and increase the client's experience of your company versus other competitors. So it's really good to try to be on top of that.
Is it helping to predict client buying patterns and habits as well to a certain extent? Can you say, oh, statistics say this client is likely to want to buy another property at a certain stage, or not so much?
You mean like a client buying a certain property prediction?
Yeah, so how much are you delving into those statistics and using them to predict buying patterns?
We're trying to analyze everything that has to do with our day-to-day, like a number of clients' interest for certain areas, etc., like stuff like that. I don't think we can predict what kind of property the buyer will buy, because many times they don't even know it themselves. And it's about showing them what's out there. Another thing we've been experiencing in our company with technology is the virtual reality, which is not really a new tool, but combine that with the off-plan developments, I think that we are just scraping the potential of the virtual reality and how that can really solve the problem of the buyers that want to buy an off-plan development, but are not sure if they will end up with the product that they are promised.
So we've moved on from going to see the model.
Yeah.
And the landscaping.
Completely already.
Yeah.
And the potential there is even bigger. I mean, if you can solve that problem, and there's no point anymore going to a site, because the virtual reality will make you a much better presentation, and there's just land, basically. If you can solve that properly, and then you can somehow make the whole experience so good that people, and that already exists, that people can walk through the property, they can click on a kitchen, change the brand, change the furniture, change the color. Once they come out, and they've been there with friends looking around at the same time, once they come out, the bill comes out with the extras that they asked for. So if you can do that, and you can make a legal, strong contractual base to that, then the next step is to try and just sell it on the internet. There's no more point anymore going to the site, because you get a much better feel. And then if you can automatize that, I mean, you all know the hours.
Then we are not needed anymore.
Why not? If you've done it. But if you think about all these hours with clients, oh, what is this marble, and can I change it here, and this, the human resource is brutal there. So that's very interesting.
I think it only works to a certain level, right? We for instance had a client. He asked, we have the skeleton of the building done, and he asked to visit the site for 20 minutes. So we said, of course, he can visit for any as long as he wants. But he said, can I stay in the property for 20 minutes alone? And he said, okay, well, if you don't fall out or if nothing happens, of course. He ended up spending 3.5 or 4 hours just walking around the apartment that he wanted to buy. There was just concrete, nothing else. And I would honestly not imagine him spending 4.5 hours in a VR, trying to do all of that. So in some cases, I think clients really require to be on site. But as you mentioned earlier, it's maybe just because they're not used to the technologies and they have to get used to it first.
Again, as the construction advances, it makes it easier. But if we talk about trying to make sales 3 months prior to moving the terrain, then it becomes more. But absolutely, I agree with you. There's a certain degree where the personal touch will never be the same. And also, Benjamin, what you said about then we will not be needed. I know. But I think that definitely technology is advancing and it's 100% a tool for all of us. And it's shaping the real estate industry. But I think that as well it will therefore make even more crucial the human relationship and the human factor, and people will value this even more because only that will make you feel special when you're attended by a person. You don't want to be attended by a
Doesn't
machine.
take away the need to have an experience.
Yeah.
Does it?
I agree that the client buys because of you or him or me, because they like the personal assistance.
Absolutely. Lyra, we're
Yes,
going to
but-
have to
yes,
move on very shortly. But just, yes, please,
just quickly,
please, new
I would just
technologies.
add to the technologies. Why we start to use the technologies? It's because the demand is created by us or by clients. It's the same. I mean, we start to improve our services like in property management by technologies, and building and construction by technologies and new materials. I don't know, nobody imagines his life without automation system, or in marketing, as author mentioned, or information product. So generally, our demand creates technologies, and then we implement these technologies, and then we see what are the next demands, whether it's client demand or developer demand or real estate demand. So it works all together in a synergy, and it's very important.
And we were
That's it.
talking earlier on as well about the sort of surveying tools. Somebody used to go in literally with a tape measure and measure a building, and now you can do it with lasers, and you're getting a absolutely
Satellites,
millimeter
drones,
perfect replica
everything.
of a building.
And
Yeah.
then, anymore, our clients being foreigners, they don't need to go to electricity company to pay the bill. They don't need to go to water company or to service company. Everything is with one click, which is amazing. I really find it out amazing. And we spoke all the day, we were speaking about sustainability. System automation helps any property to be very sustainable. They forgot the electricity, they forgot the water home, everything will be shut down itself. So it's very important in terms of survival also. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything else to add, anyone? No? All right, wonderful. Any questions from the floor? Does anyone have a question? Yes, lady here in the third row back. Yes.
So you were discussing inflation earlier, and my question is, with inflation potentially affecting construction material costs, are there any innovative approaches you are considering to optimize material usage or explore alternative building methods to control expenses?
Great question. Thank you so much. So I'm sure you caught that from the lady in the third row. Inflation, obviously, it's having a massive impact, as you've said, on future building costs and current building costs. So how are you mitigating that? Are you looking at new technologies within materials? Are we using new methods? Any responses to that?
Well, I will start. I think we use both. First of all, we use very smart consultants who are telling us about the technologies. So we know how to save the building materials. We know how to build less with a less carbon footprint impacts and everything. So in terms of methods and technologies, we have to use both. Otherwise, we will not decrease or somehow control the inflation.
Max?
I have to say it's more on the role of the supplier that we are selecting. So I think it would be maybe too ambitious if I say we are saving it, because we're not. We're just making good deals with our suppliers, and it's always on the supplier side. So honestly speaking, for me, it's securing good contracts, and that's basically how I can mitigate these risks. But the way how it's done, it's either a consumption saving or a cost saving on the supplier side. So either they do it, they create it, or they supply it with under with or they create the item with less money involved, or they use less material. So it could be both on each side.
Benjamin, do you think there's a tipping point? I mean, obviously, your clients are, they can buy expensive properties. It goes without saying. But is there a tipping point at which point they'll say, no, we're not doing this any longer?
Yeah, I think that's always, the advantage that we have is the location where we are. But I think as well, regarding your question, I think a lot of factories are looking into this. So from the source, they are looking into that. I know of a big company in glass that makes the biggest glass of the world. They are really looking into other mines, into other fields where they can create the glass. So they reckon that, okay, glass went up, I think, by 70, 80%. They reckon by next year it will go down by 30, 40%, because they are looking into new technologies, new things as well.
So it's, as you said, it's the suppliers, it's the manufacturers who are potentially bringing these new products to you.
Yeah, exactly. And if you speak about glass in particular, there's a very concrete example where they're actually using thinner glass, which is the same amount of, or which is within the standards, but thinner. So they use less material to produce the same product.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Anyone, we've got time for one more question. Does anyone have any more questions? Yes, gentleman in row 2. Okay.
My question is more for the developers there. You said that you're dealing with both reconstruction, renovation of properties, and new build. Concretely speaking, how much is nowadays in your locations a square meter to build a new property or to renovate a square meter? Just a few figures, if you can.
Figures? You are willing to give some figures?
I would, certainly, if I had them. I don't have the figures in my mind, I have to say, but
obviously the cost hasn't stabilized. The cost is increasing. Yeah?
the situation in Ostrava, as I mentioned, is the third largest city in Czech Republic. It's a bit different than the major cities. So in Prague, for instance, it's very hard to buy a new land. So there's a lot of brownfields that are being reconstructed, and a lot of buildings that are being reconstructed into a residential building. But in Ostrava, it's a little bit different. So the freedom of or the availability of land, it's slightly bigger than in the major city.
Lara, just quick question. You're obviously not on the mainland, so you have extra transportation costs. How does that impact you?
Yes, indeed, we do, and unfortunately, Cyprus doesn't produce a lot as materials because we are a touristic destination. We don't have hard industry. Yes, in terms of transportation and logistics, it's becoming harder and harder every year. But I would like to answer with figures, please, because I understand the question is important. It depends what is the purpose of the development, because if you are doing redevelopment of the hotel, then it's not for sale. I mean, you are not selling apartments or rooms there. That means you're not doing savings or something. You're doing more luxury or, let's say, premium class property in terms of long rent or leasing or whatever. And then you're not cutting the costs. You're not budgeting it. You're more doing expensive hobby, for example. But generally speaking, with the figures, we speak about the brand new properties in Cyprus. We're speaking about the cost of construction cost, because it's not about the land. We're speaking about between 2,000 to 3,000 per square meter. It's construction cost excluding the land, and it includes the cost of transportations. And okay, and then the types of the properties are varying, whether it's low mid or upper mid properties. In terms of redevelopment, we had extremely new experience for us, because we thought it should be cheaper. No, it's not, because when especially you're redeveloping historical buildings, you have to preserve the same tile which was 50 years ago and nobody has it. So you have to go to Italian factory to bring them the pattern and to produce customized for you. So we're speaking about costs again between 2,000 to 5,000 per square meter, because you can have so many unpredictable factors which you have to preserve. So yes, I think redevelopment is not cheap solution and it's not easy solution in terms of historical buildings.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for your question. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank our panelists. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And just a reminder, Artur logging off from Drumelia, Lyra Ambrosidiu. Is that good? That's good? From Property Gallery, Benjamin Buell from Open Frontiers, and Max Chaipolt from Esso House Development. Thank them, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.